Brian's been traveling for about a week now, and he rarely travels anymore. So the grace has lifted for him to be a traveling husband. It used to be easy. It's not so easy anymore. He comes home tonight, but the culmination of all the things I've been having to do in his absence was a phone call this morning. Without one extra adult driver here, like I had to leave at 7 to get Chase to baseball practice, so Cooper leaves at 7:30 to take Cooper and Eleanor to school. And let me just pause and say, when you leave at 7 to take your kid to school, you may or may not have a bra on. But I did have a bra on, thankfully, but I did not have shoes on.
I would probably be in my robe if I had to.
I had PJ pants on, and for some reason I'd thrown a sweatshirt on. I had bare feet, but I did have a bra on. So I dropped Chase off.
Bare feet.
I know. I was in a hurry. It was like, oh my gosh, you're late. And so I just ran to the car. I know.
No slippers.
No, just bare feet, pajama pants. Anyway, so I dropped Chase off. I was halfway home, and Cooper calls, Mom, I was in a car wreck. So, he sounded calm, so I knew he wasn't injured or anything. I'm actually really, really terrible in tiny situations, but really good in major situations. Like this felt more major. So I was like, okay, where are you? I'm on my way. Was it your fault? Yes. Give her your insurance, give her your name, your address, your phone number, all those things. I'm on my way. I'll be right there. And I am driving going, oh my gosh, I have bare feet. I have bare feet, whatever. So I got there. Thankfully, I didn't have to get out of the car, but I just pulled up. The lady was so nice.
I just remembered a story. I'll tell in a second.
Okay. The lady was so nice. Cooper had rear-ended her. And anyway, it's all fine. The car is damaged. The car needs repair. Her bumper is scratched. Her bumper needs repair. Cooper is safe. Eleanor is safe. Life lesson learned. But all these things, like I'm going to need Brian to come home. So that's how my day was. But what did that make you think of?
Well, two things. Lucy was in an accident. Somebody, kind of just grazed her bumper, so no damage.
Cooper called and said, I grazed her bumper. His definition and Lucy's are quite different.
Quite different,
okay.
yeah. So, Lucy called crying, oh, Mom, I've been in an accident. And I was like, oh, I'll be right there. Because I had just left her, so I was like a block away. So I turn around and go back, and this young 16-year-old had also, two 16-year-olds grazing each other. And their bumpers kissed. And
oh, my goodness.
Anyway, she's crying, but there was like no damage. It was just like, this is fine. Let's just drive away and move on with our lives. But what your story reminded me of was...
oh, my goodness.
One time...
You just spit. It was so funny.
I did. I remember Deleva telling a story. My mother-in-law... I still have spit. Telling a story. It was kind of an icy cold morning, and she's dropping Charity off for school. But she's in her robe.
Yeah.
And Charity's getting out of the car, just sliding.
Oh, no.
And she doesn't get out and help her. She's just like, go on.
Yeah. Crawl in there. Crawl in.
I think she might have also rear-ended a school bus one time
in
her robe. And she didn't get out of the car either.
Seriously. I pulled up, and I was so thankful that the lady came to my window. She basically had stayed just until I got there because obviously Cooper's a teenager, and he had an 8-year-old with him. She's like, I just wanted to make sure everything goes okay. And I said, I can't get out of the car because I'm in my PJs. And she's like, it's fine. I didn't need to tell her that, but I couldn't not.
Yeah.
So
I'm not rude. I'm just underdressed.
So anyway, I'm not on my A game right now because I'm still reeling from parenting solo and dealing with my first teenage car wreck.
Mm. Well, at least it was minor.
It was minor. No big deal.
So from funny to disappointing, I had a real hands-on learning experience for my emotional garden hose. The last couple of weeks.
Okay, we're going to have to unpack what that means because that's from last season. So we're going to have probably some people listening that don't know what you're talking about. We talked last season about emotional blockages. Mm-hmm. And when things
Which I'm really good at doing to myself.
When things are going on internally, because over a lifetime, you have different things that come up and you learn how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And by doing that, I think your MO sometimes is stuffing.
Every time.
Every time. So the counselor said it's kind of like a garden hose that got a rock in it. and multiple rock upon rock upon rock, and now the water can't flow through.
Just a trickle.
So it's just a trickle. And so she was teaching you or talking to you about unpacking those rocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a good enough way to explain it?
How to release that emotional, because that is my MO, is something's going on and I'm going to stuff my feelings. And oftentimes then it comes out in a really unhealthy, passive-aggressive way where I'm going to, especially Whit, he has to take the brunt of my bad behavior and
sometimes
bad
he might
attitudes.
deserve it. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding.
He
I'm just
does.
kidding. That was rude.
But not
Sorry,
all the
Whit.
time, where I will passive-aggressively punish him.
Give me an example.
An example of...
Passive aggressive, just in case we all define it slightly differently. Like, what would you do that would be passive aggressive? You can even give an example of you did this to Lucy. He was telling a story one time where you told Lucy, like, well, that wouldn't be a good idea or something,
Yeah.
instead of just saying you can't go or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she does it and you're like,
Well, I'll keep it to Whit. Let's see. I would say something passive aggressive to Whit, like he's going to go out with his friends, and I'll just say, well, have a good time. I'll just be here by myself.
okay,
those
sure.
kinds of comments.
Instead of saying, I'd really love for you to spend today with me or
Yes.
something, instead of being honest like that, you just say, fine.
Well, I'll just be here by myself.
Okay.
And then he's like, well, and then he's trying to figure out, well, do you want me to stay or should I go? You said I could go, but
Right.
But now you sound like you might want me to stay. And I'm like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
And then at that point, once those emotions happen, even if he stayed, it wouldn't
And then
work
I would
either.
be mad at him for staying because I'm the bad wife that
Yeah.
makes you feel guilty and
Right.
things like that. So that's pretty typical of the way that I might not even wanted him to stay. I just want him to feel bad for leaving. It's
man.
ridiculous. I mean, when you really think about some of the things that you do, I do.
Well, I've got my own.
It's ridiculous.
I'm not going to interrupt your story, but if we have a lull, I'll share.
Okay.
Also, because there's growth happening in my life too, or stagnation. I'm not sure. One or the other. Go ahead.
So anyway, that is typically in a situation, my response is stuff all your feelings but something leaks out in an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
That's how I do.
So what's happening right now?
What happened a few weeks ago was you guys and I was supposed to go on a trip.
Yeah.
The day we're leaving for the trip, I am walking around the house, packing my bag, getting ready to go, and I realize I can't smell anything. And I called Whit because he was already out of town, and I said, I can't smell anything. Took a home test, and I am positive for COVID. So this trip that I've been looking forward to is
Yeah.
like, I'll stay home and everybody else gets to go. Like,
Yeah.
so disappointing. And
Yeah.
at first I was okay. I was like, oh, this is fine. I'm just going to be here and I'm going to work on my paper for school. I've got the house to myself. It's fine. I'll be all right. And then other unhealthy things that I do, instead of just being still and like taking in what's happening, is I start to get busy.
Okay.
So then I start cleaning and, doing. So for even I'm
so that's shocking to me, not of you, but I would never just start cleaning. I would just crawl in bed. So go ahead.
Well, I can't let myself be still
Yeah.
to experience bad feelings.
And I can fall asleep in a nanosecond, and so I can go to sleep and not experience bad feelings.
Well,
So-
yeah, I can't go to sleep.
Right.
My mind would just start going. Anyway, so I start cleaning, like, oh, I guess I'll clean out this drawer that's
Oh,
gotten
my
all
goodness.
cluttered, or I'm going to go clean the laundry room because I noticed that had a bunch of stuff just dumped in it,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a second. Here is an opportunity for you, instead of running away from your bad feelings,
Yeah.
to really examine what's happening and how are you going to rest or accept these feelings? How are you going to let the Lord come in and walk with you in these feelings? And then, how are you going to move on? Blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, so everybody's on the trip. And at first I wasn't feeling so sad. But then I woke up that was a Sunday. I think I woke up on Tuesday. And I was I'd been sad on Monday. And then I woke up on Tuesday and I was just angry.
Yeah.
I mean, I was and I'm starting to do this pattern where I'm making up scenarios in my mind about what's going on, and I'm getting angry with Whit. So my MO then would be to call Whit or when he calls me and just be mean to him in some way, well, you just have a good time there without me, blah, 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 making him feel bad and whatever. And I decided instead, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to share with him what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my sadness. Yeah. I'm going to tell him all my irrational, angry thoughts. And just let it all out. Instead of stuffing it and saying, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine.
It might be helpful if we just note in your sadness that this was a working trip.
It was a working trip.
I just hate to make it seem like Whit was just merely on vacation the whole time.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot of fun things happened.
Yeah.
But it also was he did work every day.
He did work. So it wasn't, just like you guys are on the beach and whatever.
There was no beach.
There was no beach.
There wasn't even a beach.
It was a working trip, but it is for, to go on a trip like that. It's a time where I can put aside other responsibilities that I have where I'm like, I'm not a mom this week. Mm-hmm. I don't have laundry to do this week. It's kind of like, so, but I just was like, Tuesday morning, I just woke up and I'm like, I'm just going to share with him really what I'm feeling. And, it didn't necessarily make it all better, but Whit was amazing with just listening and taking it all in, just letting me cry it out. And I can tell you, since I, was like, okay, I'm just going to feel this, I'm going to share this, like every situation that's come up since then, it's been a month or so. And every situation that's come up since then, whatever it is, little thing that I'm feeling, I'm just like, I know I can trust him.
Wow.
With this feeling. I think, I don't know. I feel like COVID kind of messed with my emotions. I think there's other things going on physically with me that I'm trying to figure out, but I feel like COVID messed with my emotions. So there's been quite a few days where I'm just like, I can feel like I'm teary today. I'm sad today for some reason.
Your COVID messed with my emotions. I've been teary for a few days.
But just being able to tell Whit, I'm sad today. Would you just hug me and love me a little bit?
Yeah.
When normally I would kind of wait for him to say, what's going on? You seem kind of sad. And I would, oh, nothing. I'm fine. And he would have to ask me 10 times. Now I'm like, I'm just going to share with him up front what I'm feeling instead of trying to make him guess or stuff it down and pretend like nothing's wrong.
That's brave.
And it has made a huge difference in our relationship. I haven't asked him if he's noticed, but for me, I've noticed.
For sure. It's interesting because we haven't seen each other much because there was that trip that I was on while you were at home. And then we got back. You still weren't feeling well for a while. I mean, we've gone to lunch or something, but then you guys went on a different trip. We had a pastor from our church be commissioned to be a lead pastor in his new church. So that's also a fun trip, but working trip that you and Whit and Brian were all on that I wasn't on. Anyway, we haven't seen each other much, but I've realized if we're going to talk about emotional blockage, this is interesting. Since we last recorded, I had a 6-month follow-up with my psychiatrist, which I don't ever understand. No offense, doctor, you know who you are. I don't know why they just write people prescriptions because like we just barely talk and he's like, yeah, it's still depressed. I don't really get it. But for the last 2 6-month follow-ups, I've said, I think I can come off the antidepressant. And 6 months ago, he goes, well, all right, let's talk about it in 6 months. I was just like, okay. And this time he said, you said that last time, you must really be doing well. Okay, great. And I'm like, hold on a second. I'm on such a low dose that supposedly I could just quit and everything be fine. And I asked him, do I need to wean off? And how would I do this? And he said, I'm going to go ahead and write you a prescription and send it to the pharmacy so that if you change your mind or you feel like this is harder than you thought or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So now I have the ability to self-wean off of this and I'm a little scared. So I haven't done it. I'm just like, I've been asking him to do it for like 12 months now. And now I feel like fear is gripping me, which is ridiculous. But I'm noticing as I'm getting healthier, like in the last week and a half, I have felt myself still on an antidepressant. I've felt myself go into a dark place. But it's the first time in my life I've noticed it. So this is very healthy or normal. Like, why am I feeling blue? Why do I feel low? I mean, and honestly, is it the weather? It's been cold and I don't want to be stuck in the house. And I mean, I don't think something is majorly going on, but it is like an indicator, like a dashboard of a car indicator, like something's off, pay attention. But this is the first time in my life that I'm recognizing, which I think maybe is God encouraging me that you can go off, like you can recognize the warning signs now and take care of yourself and run to me and stand on my word and all of those things. But means you have to be brave, and I don't know if I'm ready. After all this work, after all this healthy eating and diet and exercise and deep dive into scripture and going to COTMU and like studying the word and understanding the whole of the Bible and all these things. And now I'm at a place where I feel like maybe God's trying to hand me the answer I've longed for so long. And I don't know if I want to pick it up. Which is a terrible admission, but the Lord knows. And so, anyway, fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I think, for you, it's a step of faith.
Sure.
It is brave to share your feelings, what's really going on in your heart. It is, it is courageous to say, okay, Lord, I'm walking with you.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving this safety net behind.
This crutch, so to speak, that, when I had my hip surgery, I was on crutches for a while and that was okay. And then there's a point you put them down and you walk out in freedom. And I think it's time to walk out in freedom. And it's scary. And what's crazy, and this probably all lines up. One of my kids, I think, I wouldn't say battles depression. That's way too strong of a way to say it, but has big emotions and I think maybe navigates some similar things that I do. And I really want to model walking with Jesus in this. I don't want to preach at my kids necessarily. Sometimes I do. But in this situation, I want to model walking this out in a healthy way. And sometimes that is changing your diet and exercise and all of those things. But man, trying to disciple your own kids and show them how you're walking after Jesus when you don't really want to walk after Jesus in that situation is really hard.
Yeah. You do. Listen, I've got the plan for you. I'm just going to sit back and watch you do it because I'm not ready for it.
In our COTMU class a week or so ago, I don't even know what we were talking about. We talk about so much stuff that I can't even keep it settled in my heart.
Yesterday, when I got home from class, was like, what did you talk about? I'm like,
Jesus. The Lord Jesus.
And he's like, you just left. You don't remember? And I said, it was a lot.
So much. But we were talking about something. I'm sorry, Blake, if you're listening. You're a really great teacher. But we were talking about something. But how different faiths place like salvation or confession or a decision, when really, if you follow scripture, you don't just want to have a moment of decision, you want to become a disciple. And there's a huge difference in making a decision and becoming a disciple. I actually I actually emailed Blake, and I was like, I'm feeling the weight of raising my kids as I study this. The weight of, I feel like all three of my kids have made a decision. But are they actively following Jesus? Are they actively being an apprentice to Jesus, learning his ways and to walk with him and to do what he says? I don't know that any of them are. And in some regards, some of that's age, some of that's training, but oh my goodness, the responsibility.
Yeah, I think that responsibility hits hard during the teenage years, especially as they get to leaving the house age, where you're just like, I don't know if you are ready, or I'm ready, or have I done enough? My daughter's 17, and she is like me in a lot of ways, mostly just stuffing feelings and not sharing. Like, she's been going through something the last few weeks, and I can see it on her face and in her body language, and I keep like, I can see something's bothering you. Would you share with me? No, I'm fine. Until last night, she comes up to me just sobbing. And I'm like, what's going on? And she starts sharing. And I'm like, this is what I thought you were dealing with. I wish you would have shared it, started talking about it 2 weeks ago, before it comes to this point where, I just can't take it anymore. But it is learning to, and I am so old, and I'm still just learning this.
Are we ever going to grow up?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay, good.
I am.
Okay. That's true. It might just be one of us. Okay. All right.
But you just see her doing the same things, and it's not enough for me to tell you. How do I show you?
Right. Because talk is so cheap, especially when they're teenagers. Yeah. Where they're just like, you don't really know anything. And in some regards, I don't feel like I do know anything anymore. So, about teenage life. But wow. Yeah. Modeling that and walking that out. Last week or last episode, I said that I wanted to grow to a place where not only other people saw a change in me, but that Brian was experiencing it. And I just realized I probably have a long way to go, because I just told you and Life in Motion about my low period before I told him. So I'm going to
before this airs.
I will talk to him before this airs, but just, walking and learning and growing in community is where it's at, because maybe I wouldn't have even verbally processed this without you sharing your story. So thanks for that. I said talk is cheap, especially when raising teenagers, probably in raising kids of any age, or being married, or being single, or any life situation. But I was thinking, I'm committed this season, this Life in Motion season, because I really need to commit to this for my whole life. But right now I'm committed in this season to showing my kids and sharing myself with my kids. Like, it was brave for you to share those things with Whit and now with Lucy. I think, talking about Cooper with his car wreck today, I would say probably the best thing I did was nothing that I said. I mean, I had to help him do a bunch of real practical things, call insurance and do this and, do this online claim. But I just looked at him and I said, do you need a hug? And he said, I think I do. And just sitting with him with no correction and my hope and my prayer for my kids is that whether they're experiencing the highest high or the lowest low, that I can represent Jesus to them through action.
Do you think, so what would have been your response 2 years ago, a year ago?
I'm pretty good with bigger situations like that, so I probably would have handled it well in the moment. But then, when we got home this morning, because the kids were on their way to school, so I just said, you know what, we're all headed home to regroup. Everything's fine. Yeah. We're just going to go home and regroup before you guys go to school. And he came home and we talked a little bit about the financial implications of something like this, because he was handling it quite well. Nobody's injured. It wasn't a huge wreck. I think maybe a year or two ago, in the moment, I would have done what I did, loved him well, been calm, all those things, but then been like, do you have any idea what this is going to do to the insurance? You know, we don't make you pay insurance and blah, 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 blah. I probably would have done that at some point. But we were just sitting, and after he's like, thanks, Mom, you know, I'm completely fine. And then I just said, it felt like the right time for a teachable moment. Sometimes it's not, and I do it anyway, but it felt like the right time. And I just said, you know, Cooper, Dad and I love you, and we're going to cover you financially in this situation. We've got money in the bank to handle this. But we're in a huge season of trying to get you to steward your money well. And I keep riding your butt every time I see on your check card that you got gas at Quick Trip and then you ran inside and, you know, $3.52. You went and bought a Monster that you don't need. We've got drinks at home, not Monsters, because I'm not buying that for you, but you just throw money out the window like it's no big deal. But if we weren't covering you right now, and this is the financial stewardship I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And him kind of having a light bulb moment and saying, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I said, I want you to be able to go and buy and do what you want, but you don't have a job right now because you're a student athlete. And we've asked you not to spend any money except for gas. It's hard to get through to you. And then this.
Yeah.
And starting to see, but just really calmly, him being able to see my heart behind why I keep saying, quit buying Monsters.
Yeah.
Instead of just hearing the nagging.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would have said it harshly a year ago, 2 years ago, just like, I told you, you're always spending your stupid money on stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But I really do want him to steward his life well. And anyway, hard.
Fran was, let's see, it was a year ago we had a minor snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
And
I would say a major snowstorm.
Was it a major snow?
Well, we were going skiing.
That's right. It was that Arctic blast that came through. And we did get some snow on that. Anyway, he was working at the church part-time because he's still a student. And he was like, oh, I got to go in and get this work done. I'm like, no, you don't. They've already said you work from home. Nobody needs to go in. He's like, no, I have to go in. I'm like, no, you don't. Please don't go. And he's like, no, I'm going to go. And I was like, fine. And he left, and I don't remember if he made it to work or just barely made it out and slid into a curb and did damage to, I mean, it was
bent the wheel or something.
Bent the wheel.
So
yeah, it was like
significant damage.
Yeah, it wasn't just bumping your tires or something like that. So we made him pay the deductible in that, and that used up all of his savings. And then he was without a car for like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So just trying to teach him, and
doing the best we can.
I know.
It's hard. Well, we'll probably have more to talk about throughout this season of living a life where we're walking it out, where the people around us get to see and experience, specifically the people closest to us, our kids.
Yeah.
So, Heather, as we wrap up, what did you do last week, or are you going to do this week, just for the joy of it? Something that brings you or those around you joy.
I've got to think about these.
Listen, you think about it, and while you do, this is what I suggest we do.
Okay.
To bring you joy. I suggest we team up on this, and we find a way to celebrate the fact that maybe for the first time in your life, you're unclogging the hose. Like, you're sharing your emotions with wit, and you're taking them to a safe place, because we talked about it in this episode but kind of breezed over it. It's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? You want to go out to dinner? You want to go to lunch? Do you want to have a party? Do you want me to blow up balloons? Let's celebrate, because if we don't, we just move right past it like it's no big deal. So what do you want to do to celebrate?
Oh my gosh. We don't need, I'm like,
nope.
I'm feeling great.
Good. I'm glad you're feeling great. And so we're going to celebrate it because you're feeling great. You know, Heather, you didn't seem so excited about my party idea.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking. You know, years ago when we had our stillborn daughter, shortly after that, there was somebody that spoke at our church, and they were talking about Memorial Day and why it's important to memorialize things and to kind of stake in the ground, like, I will not forget because here's where I was changed type of thing. And we don't have to have a party, But I think you just took such ground that would be so easy to backslide. Like, you did it the once, but it would be so easy to next time you feel frustrated to stuff again, because that's natural. But if we say, oh no, something happened here, you may still backslide. You may still have days that you stuff, but it's harder to move back when you say, no, here's where it changed. I just want to celebrate that with you, that like,
and
this is where it changed.
remembering how good it felt, how freeing it felt, the response that I had from Whit of sharing and just like, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
The devil has a way of twisting situations where I could see how the next time you're tempted to do that, the thoughts could come to mind like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that hard, but it also isn't that big of a deal. And I just want to give you some party level accountability. Like, I want to celebrate with you in hopes that it helps the next time. The next time you're faced with a temptation to do it the old way. But if that means we have to celebrate, so I just thought I'm walking into uncharted territory. If that means we have to celebrate something about me, maybe I don't care about celebrations anymore.
And we're going to throw you a surprise party when you get off those pills.
We're going to throw you a surprise party, which is my greatest fear in life. You go, I know. Okay, great. How would you invite people? We're going to celebrate the end of antidepressants. It's going to be awesome.
We're going to have a buffet of pharmaceuticals.
Oh my goodness. This seems like we're going to get arrested. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say to anybody that's like, wow, really good for Heather. Too bad I can't do that for myself, or I'm not ready to do. Well,
or
even
share their emotions.
Even just sharing your emotions. Like, I don't have anybody to share my emotions with.
Or my husband's not safe to share my emotions with.
Part of that is me taking a step and sharing my emotions with Whit, but also being honest with him about, all I need for you to do right now is listen. I don't want your advice. I don't want you to be feeling sorry for me. I just need you to listen. Or if I'm waking up and I'm feeling emotional that day or whatever, saying, I just need you to love me a little bit today. Because I believe in general, especially if you're a married woman, most men are pretty easy to please, and really what they want to do is serve and love their wife, really. And if you just tell them how to do that, they are so happy to be able to step in and be useful and be needed in that situation, that we often make it all into a much bigger deal than
That's so true.
It needs to be.
That's so true. That sounds easy and hard all at the same time. So if we have listeners, I guess they could text us.
We'd love to hear from you.
So text Life in Motion to the number 23101 and follow the prompts, and just be brave enough to share with us, what is that next step that you're taking, big or small. There's something about bringing it into the light and letting the Lord have the opportunity to walk it out with you. You can journal it, you can say it out loud, but we would be so honored if you would text us.
We can celebrate you.
And we'll celebrate you. We won't share your business with people, but we can celebrate you, and we would love to do that. So text us, Life in Motion 23101, and follow the prompts, and we can't wait to hear from you. Have a great week.